Okay, so let me have a look and see if I've got any questions in the chat, or I'm happy to give you all a few minutes to ask a question. I can't see that there are actually any questions in the chat, but maybe somebody might want to kick it off. I know that I think I was really sort of excited when I heard the NENA presentation about there being something happening, because I don't know whether, Sizzle, whether you actually told them the news, did you, that our course was, so the program was disestablished because we didn't actually have enough. We had, compared to other courses, we actually had quite good enrollments, but the universities ended into a fairly sort of intense stage of course optimization. So if you don't have, I think they're up the bar from about 30 to about 40 enrollments before they'll consider us a viable course, which makes it really difficult for anything that's on the fringe to get. And because when you start something new, and this is something I'm sure that Michelle and Joe would be thinking about with pilot programs, that it takes a while to get momentum. So it takes a while before you'll actually start to build that student base before sort of universities will allow you to keep going. So we were lucky that we did get the years that we did. We had 4 years and we didn't have big enrollments in all those years. The first couple of years were really small. Of course, it makes it an absolute delight to teach those programs when you've got really small enrollments, because it becomes very personal and intimate sort of teaching. It's my favorite sort of teaching, small group teaching. But yes, I'm excited about NENA's program, because I think that there are opportunities to, as I think Bronwyn mentioned in the chat earlier on, she said she could see 8 whole courses potentially there, and I agree. There's lots of scope to sort of come out and zoom out from there. So
I have a question, if that's okay. Certainly, just feeding off what you said, Anne. The NENA course, Joe has always had lovely ideas about how an introduction could then be a jumping off point for other topics. And there's so many topics we couldn't fit in. So, but my question is actually to Phil. I also really enjoyed your talk, Phil, and I, watched last year as you were developing some of those early ideas for your course. I'm wondering how often have you either delivered it, or how many students have done it? And are you getting any feedback? Or is it still in the early stages of rolling out? I'm sorry, I might have missed that bit.
No, I haven't said anything about that, but I really want to develop not just the videos, but also the activities that go with it, because they're a package. I really wouldn't. So the videos, they're quite dense, in the sense that there's a lot of material in there that requires processing, and just to dish it out to the students at this stage would, it creates an impression. First impressions, I think, are most important. I was thinking of when it came to opening it up, and it's going to be free. I'd get a whole lot of agencies to try and promote it. But in direct answer to your question is no, I haven't given it to students to feed, to get feedback from.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yeah, no, thanks, Phil. And perhaps it goes without saying, let's you and I and Joe and others reconvene around collaborating across materials and ideas, and maybe we can streamline some stuff and help you. And you've got some ideas in there that we haven't got in ours. So let's definitely chat perhaps in the new year when we've all got our energy back. Fantastic work, Phil.
Can I ask a question?
Thanks.
To Michelle and Joe about, so just based on our feedback from the focus groups recently, they said it was important for them that it led to a degree. Like some students are actually think that is important. And so I was just wondering about your short courses. The badging, does that mean that they can get credit towards some kind of courses?
So how that works at the moment is, so we've chosen a particular approach for the pilot, and that was to the goal being to navigate the quite complicated internal processes and systems and people's preconceptions and ideas. And so we chose a particular approach which doesn't include that. So the idea at the moment is it's a micro-credential which gives them a digital badge. It's standalone. They can have the digital badge or not if they are eligible, as I explained. But certainly within the digital badge program, so it is a broader program. If you go to Griffith's website, and other universities have it too, and you go Google for Griffith credentials, you'll see the full list of all of the digital badges that are offered. A lot of them are very technically focused on kinds of skills and things, but it accommodates technical kind of skills, more community education stuff, professional development oriented, and then there's also a strand which is about building RPL for pathways into formal courses, but that's a much more complicated and longer term process, as you can imagine. So we chose not to do that for this pilot one. We wanted to test out a bunch of things about how we can work together, what the university can kind of deal with in terms of what we're proposing, and different things like that. But that's certainly one of the things we're thinking about. Is that useful? If so, what would be a pathway to do that? Are there enough students? Your own experience, and my involvement with your course as well. We have great ideas about this. There's lots of people out there who are really interested, but are there enough people willing to, engage in a course which is going to take some time and pay for, to warrant being able to do that? And we have to make really good arguments to the university about what we think the numbers will be to be able to get that kind of buy-in. So this was part of a little bit of testing exercise in terms of seeing, are people interested? Will they pay? We kept it sort of low, all that kind of thing. So so we got 33 people and they've all paid and they seem happy so far. So that's our first step in testing that out. And there'll be many more steps, I'm sure. So
And if I could just add, me mentioning we've got 32 students. I mean, that doesn't sound like much, but it's the first time. 33. It was the first time NENA's ever charged for stuff. And of course we had to charge because it's connected to Griffith. Everyone needs to be paid. I miraculously volunteer of the year will get paid for some of it. So 5, I was excited. When we passed 15, I was ecstatic because we needed 15 to even have anyone think the course was viable. To then double that, I mean, it's a small number, but gosh, it's fantastic. And certainly my plan is to take over the world when it comes to people about a better system. That's, so this is, and look, huge kudos for Joe. Been able to bring this into a university when everyone else was gutting everything they were doing. So it's been a remarkable first step, and we're very determined. My future vision is in a couple of years, 10 years, I don't know how long it'll take, but all universities will offer these kinds of new economy or well-being economy foci, and neoclassical economics will be kind of riddled in the dust with anyone who's young or thinking about the future. That's my dream, darling. That's my dream.
I think the low fee, but also the length. I think 8 weeks is actually a good length, because one of the feedback we got from the focus group was that, we do the weekend course and we do this and that, but we actually don't understand what we're doing then. And also many of them said the length of the course is important to create mature your thinking through some weeks.
Can I also say that one thing, because two colleagues of mine are in the course, and what they've muttered to me on the quiet was they got excited about the idea of the diversity. Said after a full day of work, they don't really have the energy to delve into something in detail, but we have to eventually. But the diversity of like a week on food and employment and thought-provoking, and I personally enjoy that too. So I will be very curious if we can take that kind of smattering of awesome ideas and provocations and actually roll out more specific courses. I think that would be an interesting test if we do that down the track.
And I think the thing about that is it's a different kind of an audience and a different need that you're tapping into there. The whole idea behind this one was to give people that little smorgasbord tasting of a range of different things and touch on a whole lot of new economy areas. But then what we'd be looking for if we wanted to build out any of those modules, which is one of the ideas, is enough people who want to get right into housing, for instance, or right into food, or right into work, or, you know, whichever element of it that we decide to focus on first. So it is a different audience. It's a different type of engagement with the material and what you might want to do with it. So, you know, there's still a lot of questions there. I just wanted to say as well that because we literally are testing every aspect of what we're doing here. One of the things Michelle just touched on, but I think it's worth making explicit in terms of the charging module. Yes, we have to make arguments to the university about it being able to generate some income so we can justify it. We're putting it up as an impact course so we can make arguments about it not needing to reach the kind of levels that executive education courses are expected to reach. But the other part of it for me, being involved in this world and knowing a lot of the people who are involved, knowing how, is that, you know, there's so many people who do such great work in this space and so many people that do it entirely or largely voluntarily. And for me, one of the things that will make new economies sustainable in terms of actually being able to transition various different is people have got to be able to earn a living doing it. And so this was just a teeny weeny little, you know, first drop in the bucket at trying to test out, can we, if we ran something, then can we actually pay the speakers a little bit, and can we, people actually get something out of this so that we can start to test out, is there enough in it that, you know, that people can actually you know, not fill their entire basket, but put one of the elements in their basket for how they generate their income.
Can I just have the floor just for a minute, because this is something that's sort of really dear to my heart, and is about how we go about integrating some of this stuff into mainstream curriculum as well. So one of the really the things that sort of, you know, struck me is that, for example, students, so I teach in the law school, and students learn about corporations law, and nowhere is the cooperative model mentioned as an alternative. And even though it wouldn't be enough, you know, they're not going to learn a lot, even if they just learn that it's a particular type of business model. But one of the things that sort of, and this is just a thought bubble that popped up this morning when Nick McGuigan gave his presentation, and I loved it, and he was talking about integrative thinking. And one of the things that universities are rabbiting on about a lot now is this whole thing where they're being accused by industry of not actually developing graduates that have got the necessary skills that can take them into a very rapidly changing world. And I thought that idea of integrative thinking as a skill development was spot on, and that there's scope there for saying that in a lot of areas the problem is that they just teach a monoculture, just one way of thinking. Economics is just one way of thinking. Law is just one way of thinking, and we need to think about how we can challenge that with some embedding of other ideas. So the idea of bringing in more dangerous ideas.
No, that's excellent. Hey, Anne, I just noticed that Charity has asked a question. It started as an open group.
Thank
so
you.
Yeah, I could frame it if you like, because I'm thinking about it already.
Yeah.
Charity would like to ask about the possibility of expanding courses beyond individual participants. What do people think about bringing courses to wider community education?
Totally interested, yeah. And I think I just put in the chat, Charity, I think it's, you know, coming back to what I talked about at the start, that sort of, you know, I'm not a fan of the language, but the transformative learning kind of potential, I think, where you've got a group of people who are either already working together or already have a common interest or goal in mind, and actually designing something around that that's going to work with them to, you know, really kind of tighten and strengthen their work. That's
and I think also
that's really interesting. Yeah,
with the sort of cascade training element too, you know, that learning module gets passed down in amongst the community themselves. So that it obviously has bigger impact for.
So they're learners and sort of translators,
and then learning how to teach their local community leaders as well. So that's part of the course in itself. Thank you.
Can I, there's like, this is Australia based, but I've been invited to talk through the International Cooperative Alliance. There's actually quite a lot happening at the global stage on co-ops at the moment, and they're really ramping up co-op education, open access, I would say. So they have a co-op academy, and there's co-op-a-thons and so on. So there's actually quite a lot happening at kind of the global international level. It's not, you know, deep, long, many weeks, but it's an interesting space to actually follow, I think.
Okay, sorry. Sorry, Michelle, I'll let you take the floor. I was just going to say, we've got 5 minutes left, so happy to take at least 1 or 2 more questions.
Melinda has written a comment there about, would it be good for NENA to have a model where you've got like 3 to 5 day courses, and then network leaders can promote the course, bring students into the workshop and host a weekend featuring the course. And it's interesting because that was a model pre-COVID. My master plan had been, and Joe saw, I think, some of the initial sketches, I think Sidsel did too, outlines of some set modules that we could do as a network, but rather than fly people around or even do it on Zoom, just activate local NENA members who have expertise in different fields. And then they could deliver that with a mix of in-house and site visits. Because to me, that's the exciting thing about the new economy, is you can visit the new economy. There's a lot of other things you can't really visit unless you're in your mind. So Melinda, stay in touch with us, join NENA, join the NENA Education Hub, because certainly over the next couple of years, NENA is primarily a foundation for everyone to come in and share, but the education stuff is something that NENA will continue to do under its own badge, because it is the place to bring lots of people in. And I think if we can go and play together in the real after COVID, then definitely site visits, gathering, being together, having fun and learning, and the same sort of set stuff, because I think that also helps, innovation inside that, but core elements, so that we start to sort of show the world, these are the core elements you might want to engage in when you challenge the current system and look sectorally and look systemically across it different ways. So yeah, thank you.
If there's nobody else, I saw that Scotty wanted the story about conceptualizing these weird ideas, and I don't know, this is just about, this is actually back to what we talked about this morning about values, and two beautiful stories about CoOp values. One is, I heard about a travel agency in Malaysia, which was organized as a co-op. And of course, during COVID, all stopped. And so so the manager said, well, we have all these bus drivers. We cannot use, they can't be employed, but they all use social media. So we are just going to retrain them. We are not going to sack them. We're going to use them. So we have actually to prepare for when COVID is over, and train them into understanding their destination and using and making use of their network for promotion of family holidays after this stressful time is over. So it's about the values of keeping your staff, of who's your members, who's your value inside the company. And it was just quite interesting to see how they change. Like I don't think any manager would in a corporate business would have thought that would be even a possibility.
Can I just jump in there with the Rapid Clean story, because that's one that you usually tell Sizzle, and that's a worker co-op that employs largely migrant women. And at the beginning of COVID, of course, they were one of the rare businesses that was sort of really well placed to have a boom time, because they distributed, the co-op distributes disinfectants and cleaning materials, and of course there was a huge increase in demand for cleaning. So they got swamped. All these tiny little micro businesses that belong to the Rapid Clean group got absolutely swamped. And the decision that they made was that they would actually just shut shop for a little while and take stock, rather than saying, oh, here's a great opportunity, we're going to make lots and lots of money. They were just so overwhelmed that the decision that they made was just, let's take a breather and work together to think about how we're going to tackle this problem. So again, it was about, this focus was on the worker and how this was impacting on them at that level. So one of the things is about those stories and those narratives, because they can be so powerful. So, okay, so we're right at of lunchtime. Sorry, Phil, I absolutely give you a minute. Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering if anybody is familiar with the Australian Association for Environmental Education. I only discovered them a month or so ago.
Sorry, can you say the name again?
Australian Association for Environmental Education.
Yes, they've been in touch with me through the AILA stuff. Yeah, but let's chat. Perhaps in our next NENA Education Hub, we can talk about, I think we've had a pretty good 2 years building real things, and now we can reconvene and come together and see what's next and connect up with others. Very exciting.
Okay, thanks everybody. What a wonderful session, and exciting. So really positive, you know, it's not doom and gloom. This is really positive stuff. Okay, I think we have a break now and we have lunch. We've got an hour and then we reconvene in another round of parallel sessions at 2 p.m. So
thanks, Anne.
Thank you, Anne.
Thanks, Anne.
Thanks everyone.
Right.
Thanks, everybody.
Great discussion.